Time to talk about another new distillery. Well, newish. Welcome to Whiskey Catapult, where we catapult around the world trying whiskeys from all over the world. Today we're catapulting over to England, specifically London, for Bimber Distillery. They've been a distillery that I had my eye on for a while, and I ended up picking up a few bottles. So this is their single malt small batch, matured exclusively in ex-bourbon oak casks. This is batch number 4. Specifically 04-2023. It was bottled in March of 2023. And this is bottle number 1039 out of 7,000 total bottles. So it's natural color, non-chill filtered, and bottled at 51.2% ABV. So a couple of whiskey tubers I've seen kind of talked about Bimber, said a lot of good things. Fairly new. They got started in 2015, I believe. So just over 10 years they've been doing it. And like I said, I heard some good stuff. They've got some releases just like this one where it's ex-bourbon or ex-sherry being the focus. They've got some special releases that they do. I think their biggest, most popular one has been the London Subway series, where all their balls are on different stops and stuff like that, different stations. A little too expensive for me because those go for $200 to $300. So at least on secondary, I don't think I've ever actually seen a website have them right at launch before. But we'll see how this one is. Pretty light on the nose. It's very sweet. It's almost creamy, but there is a little bit of light oak coming through there. Almost some vanilla frosting. And there's a little bit of grain and barley notes. So given this was bottled in 2023, there's a good chance this is within the 7 to 8 year marker. But they don't say when it was distilled. Since it's a collection of casks, it's very possible that those could all be very different. And so when they decided to put it all together for a release, they just kind of took from different sources to blend into one specific profile. But it is a pretty nice nose. Very fruity. That sweet oak is still kind of coming through. A lot of barley sugar. Some really good cereal notes, kind of like Cheerios. Very grainy, but not in a bad way. A little bit of pear and apricot in there. And just a little bit of like a tingle of alcohol burn. It's noticeable, but it's not like bothersome. But at 51%, I expect there to be a little bit. Finish is light. A lot of that cereal note kind of coming through. It lingers a little bit. I think that's more of the... Honestly, I think it's a little bit more of that light alcohol burn that kind of lingers more than some of the other flavors in there. But it's not a bad thing. So, like I said, I watched a couple of YouTubers talk about Bimber, said some really good things. I was able to get this bottle from overseas. I do see a couple of specialty shops have them in the States now. I believe I've seen them in kind of that $80 range. I paid 65 pounds for this one because the order I ended up getting free shipping. So it kind of averages out to about 75, 80 bucks for the bottle. Newer distilleries, that's kind of usually the trend that I kind of see their pricing is between like 60 to 80 bucks. There's some that are much more than that, like what's that little one? Daft Mill. Daft Mill is always very expensive. They're like 150 plus. They're on the newer side, but I think they only do a couple batches a year, so harder to get, much smaller production size. Cost might make sense, but it's been a little bit too high for me to really justify the purchase just yet, so haven't gotten one of those. But like I said, I heard a lot of people talk about them. I want to get this one. I feel like a ex-bourbon, since or Scotch starts out ex-bourbon. London, or not London, England, I don't believe has that regulation still. But usually with ex-bourbon casks, you can kind of get a really good idea of the profile and the character of the distillate, especially if it's on the younger side. So you don't have the sherry influence or different wine casks coming in and kind of uh, not overtaking per se, but like covering it up potentially. So I feel like this would be a good one to kind of see, you know, how it lines up with some of the other new distilleries that are coming around. And England's doing some pretty interesting stuff. They've got Bimber, they've got Cotswolds, they've got the English Whiskey Co. And the Lakes is another one. They're making some pretty good stuff. It's almost like a new English whiskey renaissance kind of thing. All right, nose has calmed down just a little bit. I'm not getting quite much of the alcohol burn coming through. Vanilla frosting notes kind of picked up a little bit, but still sweet and light. Okay. That sweet oak is still coming through, but there's still a little bit of just a bit of spice coming into it now. We still get that cereal, barley sugar kind of note. It is definitely more on the craft side. But I still get a little bit of that pear and apricot coming through. That's pretty nice. Little bit of that grain note. So some younger distilleries, specifically ones that have, I've noticed on the state side, U.S. If they're really young, they have this really rough grain note that I personally don't care for. A lot of the newer craft ones, they're just kind of getting going. Most of them will do more of like a bourbon style than American single malt. And that's usually where I get that grain note that I'm just not a fan of. This is not the same as that grain note. This one's more of a, you can taste a little bit of the grain, but it's still kind of refined out enough to where it doesn't taste like you know, you're drinking grain soup, essentially. This is not that. So, I know in a couple other reviews, I've definitely mentioned that and have it as a negative point. This one, not to that level. So, let's add a little bit of water because 54% or 51.2%, sorry. Probably could use a little bit, help it open up. So, I have 3 total bottles from Bimber. 2 of them are open. This one here, the ex-bourbon cask. I've got one that was a ex Oloroso sherry cask that was bottled for it's like a wine festival or something. I don't know. I got it at auction for like 50 pounds. I figure I'd give it a try. And the other one is this Christmas one that was bottled for the Whiskey World website. So, as you'll find out closer to the holiday season, I am a sucker for the Paul John Christmas whiskeys. And I heard a lot of good things about this one too. I think they've done a few other releases that are more ex cognac casks derived. This one is PX sherry cask finish, and it leans into the PX sherry quite a bit. It's pretty good. But again, that PX cask definitely covers over kind of the distillery foundation and stuff that they've got here. So didn't want it to do that on the, original release for it. So, okay, water doesn't change the nose too much. It's still sweet with that light oak. That vanilla frosting still coming through. Yeah, doesn't shift too much on that one. Okay. Fruit's coming forward a little bit more now, specifically the apricot. There's still a little bit of that kind of cereal note, the barley sugar, a little bit of that sweet oak is still there at the baseline. But the really crafty grain note has calmed down just a little bit as that fruit pushes forward a little bit more. So I think I definitely like it a little bit better with a little bit of water. But finish is still nice. It's light. The fruit's coming forward through in the finish more. So yeah, definitely recommend adding just a little bit of water. Mm. But yeah, no, it's a fun release. Um, I don't know uh, if I'll really be buying too much more from Bimber for a while. It looks like they're, and I could be wrong on this. This is just a outside opinion on it, looking at some of the bottles that are available. After they had success from the London Underground releases of all the different stations and stops and stuff like that, it felt like they kind of leaned into that style of release, and so they're doing a lot of releases around like popular scientists, which is kind of cool, but kind of weird for whiskey too. They're doing for like literary people and stuff like that. They're basically like, this is a whiskey that we bottled for Madame Curie and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, I guess, but I'd rather know more about like the details of the whiskey and stuff like that. So I don't know. It feels like they're kind of leaning into that, which, hey, if you had a lot of success there, it makes sense to kind of lean into that. Not going to argue there. But Back to the Ball says it was founded by whiskey lovers with a mission for producing high quality single malt whiskey with character. I guess you can still do that, but I don't know. Some of that marketing fluff seems a little overkill for me. So, but I got this bottle to enjoy for quite a while. I haven't, tapped into it too much, but I've enjoyed what I've had so far. I've enjoyed the Christmas whiskey, and I got another one that I'll be breaking up and soon. Hopefully, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, fun distillery. If you like craft distilleries, then this is one that I can recommend for you. If you're new in your journey and you haven't really dived into craft distilleries, I'd put a pause on this one. I would try more of like I think Cotswolds is a little bit more refined from what I've had from them, personal opinion. Um, it doesn't quite have like the grain cereal note that this one has. So I kind of be a little cautious there, depending on how far in your whiskey journey. But like I said, if you join more on the crafter side, some of the newer distilleries, I think you'll like this one. There's some really good notes and positives to say about this. But if you're new in your journey, this can be a little bit. I hate to say underwhelming, but I don't think it's be what you really be looking for at that stage of your journey. So, but I like it. So yeah. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button and subscribe to see where we catapult off to next. Cheers.